Welcome to the Existential Empath podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tools and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Existential Empath podcast. We are live here today. My name is Tanya, and I am your host. We are smack dab in the middle of the Lionsgate portal right now. So what does that mean? That means we are feeling a lot of intense emotions, energy coming to the surface to be cleared. We are also in a very powerful Leo fire energy. And what does that bring to the surface? It brings sensuality, sexuality, romance, passion, and creativity. So we're going to dive into this today. We're going to talk about our sexual energy and how our sexual energy is the primal and creative energy of the universe. And we will be talking a lot about the sacral chakra, which is our second chakra. This is the element of water. And when our sacral chakra is flowing with ease and grace, we have this natural flow of sensuality and creativity in our life. But if we feel blocked, we feel stuck, oftentimes that can be due to past traumas, whether that be shame or guilt that we could be trapping in our sacral chakra. We will be talking about these types of things today. So sacred sexuality has the power to change, heal, and transform our energy. So without ado, let me introduce our guests. I have three guests here with me today, and we are all experienced in different areas of this. So I'm excited to bring each one of them on as a guest because we all bring different perspectives into this scenario, right? So without further ado, let me introduce our first guest. We have Ryan Gardner here with us today with Blue Moments Coaching. Ryan is a master life coach and a near-death experiencer. Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you, Tanya.
We also have Stephanie Zumwalt here today with us. Stephanie is with the Higher Self Connection. She's a Beyond Quantum Healing practitioner as well as an author. Welcome, Steph.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And last but not least, we have Steve Noack here today with us from Trinity Healing Reiki. Steve is a spiritual coach, a quantum healer, a Reiki healer, and also a near-death experiencer. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
So let's dive into this. Steve, you've been making a lot of posts this week, specifically about sacred sexuality. So I thought we could start with you. Let's dive into this. What is sacred sexuality?
To me, I guess first, I have to recognize myself as sacred and know my own identity. And that was a bit of a road, but I had to identify myself as the energy of love first. Start to cultivate that within myself. Between myself and the quantum field, doing the inner child healing work, having the authentic expressions, correcting the inputs and outputs, to cultivate the right energy in me, and then recognize the resonance on the outside of me. So now that I'm full of love and I treat everything as sacred, it's equal when I meet it on the outside. There's no longer that empty feeling when it comes from the sexual space. I know where to spend. I know where not to spend, because it's resonating the same as me, and I feel it in my intuitive module, right in my center.
I love that.
I was looking at. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Steve. I think that a lot of it, you're tapping on the energy of love. And there is a misconstrued conception between sex and love in society, right? So let's dive into that. How do we heal those aspects of ourselves?
I had to stop identifying love from the programming I received for the first however many 20, 30 years of my life as I walked through these scenarios. And then my connection, obviously, with the NDE helped. But when this started to open up into an awakening, I instantly understood this is love that I'm feeling inside me. That's where it comes from. It's nothing I can get out of anyone else that's going to fill me. So once that started and it started to grow, I started to really eye my impulses. What pulled me, anything that pulled me or tugged at me, I looked at, I wasn't choosing to participate in it. So if it was a pattern of pornography, if it was a pattern of just a simple act of looking at a woman's body and sexualizing her, I knew that spirit wasn't me because I began to identify myself on the inside, by allowing myself to surrender all the illusions, to be purified and sort of transform myself. And this started to release those attachments as I achieved the right resonance.
That's fascinating. So, Ryan, what is your input on this? What is your input on sacred sexuality?
Sacred sexuality. Well, the first thing I would start with is it's a lot more than just sex. So sacred sexuality is the central driving force for all of creation. It's where everything began. If you even go back and you think of the Big Bang, it was its own driving
No pun
force
intended.
to create something, right? No pun intended there. But it was just meant, it's the driving force for all of creation, imagination, playfulness, creativity, and I think it's been really distorted over the years through many different ways, whether that be, cultures, religion, caretakers, society in general. But I think it's important that we understand that our sexual energy is sacred. Mm-hmm. To begin with, like Steve was talking about, it is sacred, and it starts in the body. So it's identifying the body as being sacred. It doesn't start in the mind. So the energy is housed, like you originally had stated in your opening statement, it is housed in the body, in the sacral chakra. And it's also housed in the root chakra as well. Mm-hmm. It's kind of where it starts. If you start looking into Kundalini awakening and things like that, the Kundalini is kind of referred to as a coiled up snake that's inside the root chakra. And then it uncoils itself and bursts through the entire body, through all of our chakras. And it's kind of exactly what happened at the beginning, at the very beginning of time.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's been distorted, through society and the way that we were taught about sex. I think many of us, growing up in, maybe a religious background, we were taught that sex was kind of bad. I mean, I know that's kind of how I was brought up, right? And that it was only meant for marriage. And, but what was happening at that time is I didn't realize I was blocking my creativity as well when I was blocking that sexual energy. So, Steph, you and I have talked a lot about this, how sexual energy and creativity go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts around this topic?
Well, like you said, like everyone has said, like the sexual energy is the creative life force of the universe. So anytime you are starting to feel that kind, I get feelings of, people would probably call it arousal, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I want to have sex. It means that I have this creative energy that's kind of stirring within me, and I can harness the power of that energy to put into the creative endeavors that I'm going to do. And it is such a different experience to have a sacred sexual act than it is to be just having sex. In the past, women growing up, I mean, a lot of us were damaged and wounded. And so a lot of us were having, sex to try to get love. Mm-hmm. and realizing that that's not where love lies. And when you do that, when you have multiple partners like that, you may think, it's not a big deal. I don't think do whatever you want to do, but I'm not judging anybody. But I can tell you that from an energetic standpoint, what you're doing is you're expelling that energy. And when you could be creating some amazing things with it, as far as, manifestations, artwork, business, everything, it contributes to everything. And when you have multiple partners, it actually penetrates your aura and puts holes in your aura. And so then you're not even steady in your own energy, and you're carrying that other person's energy with you for sometimes weeks.
Years.
Not careful. Yeah. And then
you're trading information.
Yes, and you
Absolutely.
don't even know who you are at that point. Like you don't even know what your energy is. So it's I kind of came into sacred sexuality intuitively. I just was not satisfied in the ways that I had been before, and my body was telling me it was time to look at this differently. So that's when it all shifted for me.
That's awesome. And, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how when we have sexual intimacy or sexual intercourse with another person, how we transmute energy, right? We transmute their traumas. We share, we have an exchange of energy. Now, Steve, you've talked a lot about this on your Facebook page. I've seen you post a lot of things about this. Can you go into a little bit of detail about that? How does sexual energy create an exchange, and how it can be heal people's traumas through sex?
Well, to me, the exchange, I started to learn whatever was resonating in me at the same frequency, and it was resonating in them. Say if it was the feeling of lust or anything like that, I started to feel this exchange of information and these urges. And once again, coming to know yourself is powerful, because then I can identify the enemy. Mm-hmm. So I started to look at it as like, okay, this is the spirit of this, and it doesn't belong here. As far as like transmuting the sexual energy, when it comes up, obviously I do my breath work, I do my quantum exercises, things like that. But I recognize it as an energy that I can store, and I can use that energy to expand into a new space of consciousness where I feel peace and I feel love and I feel joy, rather than dispensing it out into the field where it hits nothing and has no value when it returns back to you. That's when you feel empty, you feel drained, you're now leaking and dispensing energy. Like somebody were to come up and pop your bubble, and you have a cord with this person.
Yeah.
But through conserving it, you can actually use that energy to propel yourself to a place where you don't feel like you want to do it from your energetic body anymore. It's just not what you feed on. Mm-hmm. You're done needing that to feel better. And it's almost like an intuitive thing. And you figure out, this feels way better than pornography. This feels way better than random sex, because I got all that out of the way in my life, and I learned a lot of what love is not. And love was that relationship that I was treating myself. It was how I was treating myself. And then that became me. And then learning to transmute that, I order it to gather together in one charge, pretty much clearing my nervous system, draining out that subconscious of any identities that felt like I needed to feel worthy or value. When I had sex, that was for value. That was so I felt some kind of, okay, I'm a big man, I'm good looking, I'm this, I'm that, and all these feelings that don't sustain. They're just not lasting. And so through transmuting, I found that lasting feeling that was 100 times better of an experience when I choose where to spend and value that. But I order it to gather together in one charge. You can say numerous things. I say you can go to the Christ, the singularity of love, or the law of one, and gather yourselves as one charge. And this creates polarity. And then you start to alchemize as these two energies, light and dark, start this little dance. And then it's an opportunity for you to rise.
I love that. I love that term alchemy, because I do feel when you're having a sexual relationship, you're alchemizing, your mind, body, your spirit, your soul, everything together, as well as your divine masculine, divine feminine energy. There's so much that's happening, and everything is in harmonization and balance. So it's like, you could be intimate with someone where you have a balanced sacral chakra, but they have a lot of trauma. And this is
right.
What has happened to me in the past.
If your partner or whoever you're doing that with is not present in that present moment, now you absorb the gap.
Yes.
That they are not present in. Even their gap comes into you. And then it's just a cycle or a pattern. And it took me a while to witness my patterns.
It does. And I think for me, it would present itself through physical things. I would get cysts. I would get, ovarian cysts. I would get these weird things that I didn't really recognize that I was transmuting my partner's guilt, shame, trauma, whatever it was. And until we actually sat down and had a conscious conversation about, hey, what's your past look like here when it comes to sexual trauma? And then we recognized that there was some healing that needed to take place. And then that kind of took our intimacy to an entirely different level, because we were consciously moving together, in that. So, Steph, chime in on this. I know that you've got some good information when it comes to, alchemy and connecting the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and how we can, as females, how we take on that energy,
we definitely do absorb that energy. And if you're not practiced in clearing yourself or just maintaining your own balance within, you may not notice it. You may not understand that how much of that energy you are taking on. And like Tanya said, it can lead to health problems. It could lead to emotional difficulties, physical problems. But what I'm feeling guided to talk about, and I get kind of excited talking about this stuff, so I'm trying to keep it low key, but what I'm learning about sacred sexuality is, and again, this is intuitively, I haven't read many books. Tanya and I both have read the Mary Magdalene manuscript, I think it was called, or something like that talked about sex magic and things like that. But from what I'm understanding, and I'm getting a buzz through my body when I talk about this, is that when you are in tune with your partner, and when you are in rhythm as far as like your breathing goes, and really connecting in a safe space, feeling safe with your partner, and reminding your partner that they are safe, and you keep breathing through the sensuality that you're both feeling, kind of in sync with one another, visualizing the energy, like Ryan was talking about, the Kundalini energy that we all have coiled at the base of our spine, visualizing that energy with each breath rising up your spine. And as you practice this together, you are actually transcending into deeper levels of consciousness. You can deepen your expansion with this practice, along with clearing all of those chakras, balancing your energy, but also it's a great manifestation tool too, because if you guys have the same intention or mutually agreed upon intentions with the act, then before there is the embodiment of that climax,
it's like you have a more potent of a charge.
Yes. Like a battery, like an orgone.
Yeah. And you get close to that. I think Tanya and I saw something that was called edging, where you get close to having an orgasm, but you pull it back together and just breathe through it. And continuing to build that energy up the spine until it gets all the way to the crown. And I'm telling you, it's a powerful experience when it does happen. And I have yet to experience it with another person. I'm just doing this.
Well, I mean, also on that, you're learning your energetic system. So to learn this unattached is big for our nervous system and our spirit. We need those frequencies.
And I get visions, I get downloads, I get all kinds of crazy things afterwards. And sometimes afterwards, there's a big surge of energy that needs to be released. So maybe there's some crying that happens, and you just kind of shake it out. But it's a really powerful experience.
It is powerful. Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I think it's also important to mention that sacred sexuality does not have to be practiced with a partner.
Yes.
You can do that on your own.
Yes.
Of course, with a partner is wonderful and fantastic, as long as you're with a safe person, somebody that you're comfortable with, that may even match you consciously, someone that's mindful and able to connect with you. When we, just engage in casual sex, we're primarily focused just on the genitalia area. Right. But when you're engaged more in sacred sexuality, like you were saying, it's holding that, or it's not a means to an end. Right. It's more of holding back and and delaying that gratification and holding it in that container and letting it move its way up your spine.
Yes.
Like a crock pot, let it simmer.
Right.
It's so blissful. It feels so good.
Yeah, and it's magical when it hits the heart.
Mm-hmm.
When it moves through all the chakras and then boom, it hits that heart. It's like a whole new explosion. It's a completely different experience. And then continuing to delay that and rather than making it more of an outward expression, we're holding it and keeping it as an inward expression.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're not only connecting with your partner, but ultimately both of you through sacred sexuality are connecting to God source.
And I think that when there is more than one person practicing that, it just intensifies the experience even more. Because as we know, just when we're around each other, we activate each other. So I can only imagine that when you are connected in that way, it produces an even more powerful experience.
It's almost intoxicating, I've found.
Yeah, it's blissful. And I've even had with one partner an experience where we were practicing this and we literally blew the television and 7 light bulbs in the house. I mean, so I do know we have, and that's a physical manifestation of how powerful our Merkabas are and how powerful our light bodies are when we connect. And we were in a space of love and, just that deep connection. And, you can't have that with every partner, but I will say when you're having casual sex, oftentimes your consciousness leaves the body. You're not even really connected to that aspect of your soul. But when you are having sacred sexuality or intimacy, you are bringing that aspect of each of your souls into this, which just makes it much more powerful.
And like Ryan said with the genitalia, you're focusing on the earth, you're focusing on the body rather than having that mindset of, I'm going to stir the inside of me and focus on the inside of this person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Power comes in.
Because people are, I think, get more focused on the outcome. And really when it's a situation, and I'm not bashing on casual sex, that's not my intention here. But, when you're focused just on the outcome of it, you're missing out on so much of that connection and so much power and energy that is inside of you. And I lost my train of thought. So somebody pick up, it'll come back to me.
So Ryan, I want to talk about, when we had our conscious relationship episode a few weeks ago, after we stopped, we started to talk a little bit about how semen carries DNA. And I want you to talk about that concept because I do feel it's interesting, especially being a woman and how we do hold these emotions within our womb space. And so I want to hear it from the male's perspective, how that transfers, not just energetically, but also physically as well, right?
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, sex is obviously the closest we can be physically. And it's also the closest that we can become spiritually. A woman, so we're just going to start using words vagina and penis now, but the vagina is a portal to creation. It is creation itself. It is where life is formed, right? Mm-hmm. So when a man and a woman engage in sex, and semen is exchanged and a man deposits his semen in the woman, she absorbs it. And not only is she absorbing his energy, but she is also absorbing his trauma, his DNA. She's absorbing
every partner he's been
generations of trauma. And if we even go deeper into that, with the sexual repression that has taken place, really from the beginning of time, right from the beginning of time, if you look at Adam and Eve was blamed for the fall of man because she ate the fruit, right? I mean, so it goes all the way back to that point to where the female has been suppressed or repressed or however you want to call it. And it's just followed from generation to generation. So when we engage in sex, when a man the woman is the receiver, the man is the giver, and she absorbs what, the man deposits into her, she can feel that for a long time. I believe that, anytime we have sex with somebody, we create sexual cords, and these may not be ropes that they walk out of your house, that you're connected to, but it's a spiritual cord. And, how many times have we had sex with somebody? And, I'm not a female, but I've coached a ton of females to where they walk away from a sexual experience and they feel weighed down, or they feel gross or dirty. Now, some of that could be their own trauma, but other parts of that is absorbing the trauma from the man, that they just engaged in sex with. And that's why I think it's critically important to be conscious of who you're sleeping with.
Yeah, and also that plays into pornography as well, right? You create cords, right, with the people that you're watching, and back and forth. And so, the people who are creating the porn are getting a lot of cords, sent to them, and back and forth, right?
Right. And so how many cords are we carrying, right? I mean, how many people are some, attached to, and those cords get difficult to break. And when you get so many of them, you really lose who you are. Your identity is found in all of these different people that you have been with or slept with.
Yeah, you're throwing out all these grounds. And like when I had my NDE, they showed me a screen with all these extensions, and in them was memories and energies that I extended to experience reality. And it's like on a quantum level, those don't stop, and that's going to be a heck of a cleansing. And, you don't want to get to that breaking point.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to cleanse our sacral chakras, both male and female, to make sure that we are doing, the proper steps to heal our traumas from the past. And, whatever that looks like to you, whether that was abuse or kind of more neglect. I don't know how to explain it when you're kind of taught at a really young age that sex is a bad thing.
I had to have just kind of like a private ceremony with myself and like apologize to myself for treating it so poorly, just giving it away whenever, and kind of call that energy back and realize that I am sacred, and that what I have to offer is not just to make you feel good. It is transcendent, and it should be taken seriously. And another thing too about the energy, when people are having sex and they're unconscious or they're not aware of the power in this, a lot of times they're fantasizing and thinking, they're not even thinking about their partner, and they're thinking about some really kind of disturbing things. and that vibration gets put in as well, like that. And so then when you interact with the person again, you get that, you pick up on that. I pick up on that feeling of like, ew, gross.
It depends like how intuitive you are and how deeply you've met yourself, because you allow that signal, that penetration. For me, it was abandonment, man. And I just started filling myself with things that made me feel safe until it made me feel crappy. And then the physical pain and all the other things, that in the thoughts, because you're absorbing other people's thoughts, like you just mentioned.
And that leaves space for shame and guilt and these horrible feelings to come in. I personally was sexually abused at a young age, and it happened from both a male and a female, separate times, multiple times. And I carried that with me up until I was 32 years old. Until I finally, let somebody know, I'm like, I got to talk to somebody about this, because I'm feeling the weight of this. And it really, because of that abuse, it did kind of set me off on a path that wasn't the most healthiest path out there, And so I was feeling a bit broken, and I was feeling the shame of, what had happened to me, and was it my fault? How much of this do I own? Do I own any of it? I don't know. And so it was really important for me to come out. And finally, I sat my family down and I'm like, I got to tell you guys something. And I mean, it was shocking for them because it was a babysitter was one of them. Another one was a neighbor that lived in the neighborhood that we lived in for 20 years. The babysitter we went to church with.
Yeah.
Was it around the time of like you awakening and expanding? Because I experienced a lot of that with my family, telling them a lot of things.
Yeah, I think. Are you talking about like my disclosing what happened?
Yeah.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah,
It was a weight. It was a cross that I didn't want to carry anymore, and I couldn't dismantle that by myself. I needed to first share it. I needed to get it out. And I needed to be able to announce and not feel shame behind it. And
people understand they deserve that. They need to understand that.
Absolutely. And up
now
until that,
I have no problem. Like,
and up until,
I'm sorry, Stephanie. No, but it's okay now. It's actually healthy, and it continues me on my healing journey to be able to even express this right now. Where there may be a lot of viewers right now going, yeah, I was sexually abused. Talked about.
Yeah. And I think it's important to bring that up, Ryan, because I as well was sexually abused by a neighbor. And then I was pressured in my late teens to have sex for the first time. I was more abused touching wise, not necessarily sexually, but I think it's important for us to discuss that, because I know I have a lot of clients that have had this abuse happen within the church. And it's something that gets really hush hush and it gets pushed to the side. And it could be from even Boy Scouts. I've even had clients that have discussed it through Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts and those types of social situations that we were in as children. And I think it's really, it's good for us to open up to our own stories so that it gives others permission to open up with their own stories as well, that they're not alone, in this, that many of us have experienced abuse at some point. I mean, I went through a marriage where I was emotionally abused. I was withheld sexually, which then that was a totally different healing process that I needed to tackle than when I was a child. So, I think it's important that we are bringing this up because this is a part of the sexual healing process.
So when I was a child, and I don't think I've ever told anybody this except for maybe my father, I used to go over to the neighbors a lot because my father was working, my mom wasn't around. So I would cross over there at night, go overtime. I'd sleep over there all the time. And then come to find out a child molester got arrested in that house. And I was fairly certain, positive something happened. Like even talking about it makes me a little, because I've had memories come up and dreams, things like that. But it's huge to go in there and to accept it and understand that it wasn't your fault. It's just an experience that happened while you were on Earth in your body, and you work through that, that as energy, as data that tells you, hey, you had this experience, and try not to attach to it, but try to observe it like it's a movie you're watching. At least that helped me some.
Yeah, and a lot of times the shame that we carry from not only like sexual abuse, but also just like you said, being mistreated. There are lots of different ways that people mistreat us, and we internalize that and make ourselves feel like it was our fault, or we're not worthy, or we're not good enough, or whatever. And a lot of the people that I'm meeting are coming out of harmful patterns because of the shame that they felt. Like we talked about porn stars before, like those people, a lot of them are on drugs for a reason, because they can't cope with what they're feeling emotionally or energetically. And
sometimes they can't even recognize it. It's so knotted up in there.
Yeah, right. And so that is part of the awakening, is coming out of that victim consciousness. But at the same time, I'm not shaming anybody for being a victim either. Like I get it. And that is part of the transformation. It's just not meant to stay there. You're not meant to
knew
stay
any
there.
grievance I had to go in me instead of out of me. Once I had told one person, my father, and then I knew any grievance had to now go to my Christ, to my higher self. And that began to lift me up too. You know, it's all a game of energy.
Yeah, because even if you get an apology or something from somebody else, they have no idea the gravity of pain that you've been through because of this incident. It's not going to give you the closure that you want. You have to find it within yourself.
And we have that power to take these soul pieces back.
Yep.
I think it's also important to realize that abuse sexually or trauma that is inflicted on our sexual energy is not always physical either.
Absolutely.
You know, when we're younger, there's lots of examples. We know that it's a creative energy. We know that it's an imaginative energy. And so we also know it's an explorative energy. So if you are a child and you love painting, or you want to write a story and your parents or your teacher look at your painting and criticize it, that is sexual energy abuse. And we hold that within us. Even if we go into like masturbation, children at a young age are going to explore their bodies. And what happens when mom and dad walk in and see this happening?
You get shamed.
What the hell are you doing?
Mhm.
Don't do that. Don't touch yourself like that. You can't do that. You know, that's gross. That's disgusting. That's not what it's for. You just wash that in the shower and you never look at it, and you go to the bathroom with it, and that's all you do. You know, we're shamed even at that young of an age that sexual energy, that creative energy, is gross. It's disgusting. Stay away from it.
Yeah.
It's like put it in a prison.
Mhm.
They're like, let's put it in a prison, the dark side. Put it in a prison right away.
Mhm.
So they don't figure out the value.
Yeah, and I think too, one thing that helped me was to have compassion for my abuser, because I knew that my abuser had been abused as well. And this was a generational pattern that went down, because children don't just know how to touch other children. You know, it's something that was taught to them or done to them that was then transferred to me, you know. So as hard as that may sound for some people to be able to grasp that concept, to have compassion for your abuser, it was hard for me at first. But then once I saw them as a child and them being abused and them going through the same thing that I went through, it was a lot easier for me to forgive that, you know. And it wasn't, you know, necessarily taking away what they did to me, but it was helping me open my heart to be able to heal that aspect of myself and be able to move on from that. Because what I recognize, you know, abuse, it runs down family lines oftentimes. And so, you know, odds are if you've been abused, one of your parents or both have been abused as well. At least in my small town, that's unfortunately a very common concept, you know. So it's just recognizing that we're all connected and we're all one, and realizing that what someone else's pain is that they may be projecting onto you, and seeing them in a different light. You know, that was very helpful.
You don't have to carry yours forward, because they're handing it to you, but you don't have to hand it to the next person.
Yeah, it's like handing the baton of sexual trauma, you know, on to the next.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make. I am unable to so I guess we don't necessarily need to confront our abusers. I don't even think, you know, necessarily conversations need to be had. That's all internal work, you know, that you do within yourself as far as accepting it.
Yes.
I am not a firm believer that everybody deserves the forgiveness. I do think the acceptance is critical. The forgiveness, of course, it's done for you. And I think a lot of good ways, you know, to do that would be to write maybe a letter and then throw the letter away. Yeah. Or, you know, there's lots of different ways, you know, to connect to, you know, and begin healing. But forgiveness is really difficult for a lot of people when it comes to that. So I think it's most important to start out with acceptance.
Yeah.
Okay. And
I
then
agree.
see
And
where
it
it
brings me
takes
back to that movie, The Shack. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that, but when he's
Mm.
working through his daughter being kidnapped and killed, he gets to a point where he faces God, and God says, how are you to judge? Who are you to judge what this killer has gone through in his life and the amount of abuse that this particular person had gone through? And I think
Right.
that's tough. And, I think, like you said, Ryan, it's really just accepting it and moving through the healing process the best way that you can. So you're not holding on to the hate, the
Right.
shame, the guilt, the
It's
pain.
more of
anymore.
forgiving. Yeah, it's more of forgiving myself, my inner child, for carrying that burden and that shame and that guilt for so long, rather than focusing on forgiving my perpetrator. Because I can accept what my perpetrator did, and I can see that, they were likely abused themselves. That's for them to work through. Forgiveness starts with forgiving me.
Well,
It
and
does.
taking your power back, because the more that you sit in this guilt and shame over an incident that was out of your control, I mean,
Right.
let's face it, it's out of your control. The more you're giving your power to this other, that situation, and it's not serving you in any way. So calling your power back and saying, I'm not going to allow this to control me in this way any longer, and asking your higher self and your guides, like, please help me with this, please help me transmute this, because I
Yeah,
don't
you're
this
trying to
feeling
change that resonance.
Yeah. So we are in control, we are powerful.
Right.
And we have, when we give our power away like that, then we're just fractioning ourselves.
We are, and it's like siphoning or depleting our sexual energy, which can play into our sexuality, our confidence, our creativity, our passion, and how we go about our life. And so when we are, moving through the healing of our sexual traumas, it's also bringing back our creative spark and our inspiration and our motivation that we may have given away. We may have given our power away.
There's no more pee
Unknowingly.
in the pool. There's no more pee in the pool. And you're swimming in a sacred pool now, and it feels much differently.
Yeah.
And obviously you respect your partner and your thoughts and your actions too, but
Right. But you're not trying to get anything from your partner. That's the difference, I think, too, is like,
yeah,
we've touched on it a little bit, but usually, or in the past, I guess, in unconscious sexual relationships, you're trying to get an orgasm, you're trying to come or whatever. In a conscious partnership or union, it's not about that. I'm full, I'm whole, I have everything I need, I'm just
yeah.
expanding with you.
And you're not carrying the blocks and the neural pathways anymore that don't allow those energy signals to get there.
Right.
Working through those spaces clears that and rewires the brain.
Yeah,
Right.
I think it's dropping self-gratification, and that's what sacred sexuality is dropping self-gratification. And it's not about you, it's focusing on the experience, it's focusing on your partner, it's bonding with your partner, and both of you bonding and coming towards consciousness
Yeah.
together, right? It's moving that energy through your bodies together, and you can assist each other in that, with just touch. I mean, even just simply touching your partner and, lifting that energy up for them.
It's such a beautiful experience. It's something I never thought I would feel. And when you feel it, it's like the more and more you honor it, and the more you open to it, the more beautiful it gets.
I never
It results in
expected
a
to feel
full
this.
body orgasm rather than
Totally. Yeah. On both ends. A
Yeah.
cosmic orgasm is what I call it. Yeah. It's
right,
just,
cosmic galactic
Mhm.
orgasm rather
Yeah.
than just a genital.
And when you can time it together, it is just powerful. And if you've, Steph and I have done a lot of research on the sex magic. And if you set that intention, with your partner on what it is that you want to manifest, and once you've built up all of this energy and you
Or by
both get
yourself.
to that climax together,
Mhm.
it is powerful in what you can manifest into your life. And
Yeah.
Steph, you've had experiences with this.
Oh, I do it. I do it a lot. I use that energy a lot in my own personal growth and goals and things like that. Like writing my book. I used sex magic. I mean, just to find clarity, to find my tone, to find my, how I want to teach. Like I set that intention when I'm practicing sex magic, and like just clarity, overall clarity, being able to discern.
It's like you're clearing out your pathways with the charge of a certain frequency you're
Yeah.
creating.
Yeah.
And that's helping your field expand.
And see, I don't manifest like a new car or anything like that. Like I want growth. I want deeper expansion, greater expansion, and I want to make a difference and serve. And so my intentions are usually, how can I do this in the best, most comfortable way? That's my intention. And then when that moment happens, it always is fulfilled. That wish is always fulfilled. I always wake up with a greater sense of clarity, purpose, drive, different things. And also in my artwork and things like that, I use it for a lot of things.
I'm going to get a better homes and gardens as soon as we get off this phone call.
You should. You should. It's
good.
incredible. And it's just, like I say, it's just you're feeling the sensation growing within you. And with I do it with like every exhale, I feel it growing more, and I feel it pushing up my spine.
Yeah, like Ryan was talking about, you're building and building that charge.
And when it gets a little too close, I pull it back and I keep going. And it's a very interesting experience. And like I say, it was intuitive. I would love to learn more, like I suppose from other people, but intuitively, I'm very guided to it, and didn't realize that was what was happening in the early on when I was with my partner. I didn't realize that that's the experience I was having. But I started getting visions, like full on visions of like Egypt and
I think we've all experienced the twin flame thing, right?
Yeah, something like that.
And then we moved past it. At least I did. And I saw that I was being made whole.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that concept. I don't knock it.
Well, I mean, that's the label, but it's just a deep psychic healing on a divine level, you know? Two channels.
Yeah, because it's within you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right, Steph. I feel I do the same. I have, when I work with that Shakti and the Shiva, that's that balance of masculine and feminine energy, learning about that and using breath work to get to that. I get hot, you get heated, and it's like this
sweating right now. I'm drenched.
And so it would take me back. I started to do some deep meditation around it. And I was going back to past lives in ancient Egypt, where I was participating in these rituals where they were harnessing sexual energy to be able to manifest things for the kingdom. And I'm like, this is just fascinating, to me. So this sexual energy, this isn't our first rodeo. I mean, we've done this many.
Yeah, we're just remembering. Yeah.
It's very different. But when we come into this third dimensional reality, these are areas that we have signed up to clear. We're clearing the traumas, from all of our parallel lives, our past lives, our current lives, our future life, everything, so it's like, I think too, we're moving more into healing that feminine energy, as male and female, and learning how to receive and learning how to be in our softness and that gentle flow, right? Because for so long we've been in, much more of an assertive energy. And I know we talked about that in our last show of conscious relationships. And so it's just getting to a point of balance, whether it's yourself or with your partner, of balancing out those energies. And when you can do that, you're a powerful generator. You are a powerful battery. And
learning how to self-process and self-cleanse is very important.
Very important. And so, and like we said, we're not dogging on casual sex. We're just making people more aware of the power of their sexual energy and how you can pick up energy from others, and that you may not even be recognizing that you're doing that. And, Ryan talked about how we do get courted to people. If you've had an intimate relationship with someone and you're having a difficult time getting over them and you're like, why can't I move on? Oftentimes there's some deep cords, energetic cords there, almost like an umbilical cord from a mother to a baby. It's a very deep cord. And, in order to release that person, oftentimes we have to heal the sexual energy and, everything
And be
around that.
aware of it. I mean, you need to be aware of these cords and these, lower vibrational, if you will, people that you may have had sex with. It's identifying them and knowing that, being aware of the karma and the repression of your own experiences, not only personally, but the collective as well.
It's like having quantum internet and you have all these programs that are still there and they're old and they're running in the background and
Right.
they're making you feel sluggish and all those other things.
Yeah, too many tabs are open.
Yeah.
Yeah, and recognize that before, how do you feel before you have intercourse with someone? And then how do you feel after? Do you feel, depleted afterwards? Do you feel like you picked up some shame or some guilt and then they're running around all excited and happy, or maybe they're relaxed? And, was there a transfer of energy between the two of you? Just really start being more present within your body and feeling, how did I feel before this connection? And how do I feel now? What emotions are coming up to the surface? And those are, things that you want to ask yourself. Is this my energy that I need to clear? Or is this the energy of the person that I was just with that I need to clear and send back to them for healing? Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's not even just picking up the partner's shame and guilt. Are you activating your own shame and guilt in the sexual experience? And pay attention to that. And it's okay. Like if it happened, it's okay. It's all right. Don't beat yourself up. You are where you are, but just pay attention to that and honor yourself a little bit more next time, or try to.
I was just going to mention that. I was going to mention that as far as releasing it. Just thank it. I thank this experience. I honor it. I understand it was a part of my journey and allow that signal to pass, because that's what it is. It's a stored signal.
Yeah.
At that moment. And
I love how you said, just be gentle with yourself. I think that's super important in healing, sexual energy, is being extremely gentle with yourself. And just retrieving that idea of how sacred you are.
To experience all of
where
it.
you've been. It doesn't matter what your past is. You are still sacred.
Yeah.
And to experience all of it, right? We're not shameful for anything here.
Right. And if the shame and guilt that you activated is not yours, but you still feel kind of yucky or whatever, and you have had a sexual experience, I think salt baths help tremendously for cleansing your aura, your energy system. And like Ryan was talking about energetic cords, there are a lot of different ways that you can send those back or release them, uproot them. I don't know. There's a lot of different things that you can do to create a detachment. I'm always, when I'm out with people, if I recognize energy that's not mine coming at me, I'm always like, return to sender. I say that inside all the time. Return to sender. That's not mine.
Well, and calling your power back into your body 100% and just not giving permission for the energy of others to leech on or latch on to you. Because everybody, it's all just looking for a light source, a battery source, right? And if we're shining bright and we're standing in our power, then we're like it's like moths to a flame, So we want to definitely make sure that we're cleansing our energy and standing in our own power.
And so moving forward, that would also, I think, mean, being responsible with your sexual energy and what you do with it moving forward. Seek, you want a partner that where you're seeking connection and not satisfaction.
Yes.
Ooh, that's good.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it starts with building a relationship with yourself, intimacy, into me, I see, right? So it's like building that connection, that relationship with yourself will also make it stronger for you to attract that perfect partner into your life, because you will be exuding and resonating, at a frequency or a vibration of self-love. And when you do that, you will also be attracting a partner who is also resonating at that frequency. And so you can, be one as a couple, but also you can be your own selves as well and feel confident and comfortable in being able to do that. Where most of at least in my past, most of my relationships were based off of trauma bonding and, those types of things where it was just this need for codependency or this need for, seeking love outside of myself or seeking validation for, how attractive am I or, whatever it may be. And so I think as we move more into more self-awareness, we begin to recognize that everything starts from within. And we as a society have been looking externally for love, for attraction, for attention, whatever it may be. But we've got to turn that around and look deep within ourselves and heal those aspects of ourselves in order to attract the partner that we want in our lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had to crack myself open. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say too, like everything on, nobody should feel guilty for however they're living right now. I mean, look at everything that gets programmed. I mean, all of the movies with the sexy woman and like how we're supposed to be received or how we're supposed to act or, how we move through life to get our needs met. It's all BS. And the more you distract from that or more you break away from those distractions, the more you come into self-awareness.
And you came on Earth to experience as many emotions as possible and then return as you came originally, as love, hopefully in a body. So it's not that you're doing anything wrong. You're learning your value and your energetic system along the way.
Absolutely. So, I guess we had a little bit quiet of a chat today. I kind of had a feeling this is a sensitive topic and not everybody wants to jump in and talk about it. But I appreciate... Yeah, the commenters.
I didn't think we had a quiet chat, but the commenters maybe.
Yeah.
Commenters.
No, I meant the commenters.
Okay.
The listeners out there. Oh, someone did. I've been married for 7 years now. We have 2 kids. Yeah. So I do feel this is a touchy topic that people are afraid to talk about. And if there's anything that we could do today is to be able to share our experiences, put ourselves out there in a vulnerable way and allow, the listeners and the watchers to be able to understand, to feel that they're not alone in the sexuality and their sexual energy and understanding that we have the power to call that back into our bodies and, and utilize that energy in a positive, powerful way. And so I appreciate each and every one of you coming on. I'm going to have each of you just kind of go through again how people can reach out to you and contact you if they feel guided to do so. So Ryan, how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, thank you, Tanya, for having me. This was a wonderful discussion. I'm the founder of Blue Moments Coaching. You can find me on Facebook or you can reach me at bluemomentscoaching@gmail.com. Stephanie,
how can people reach out to you?
Hi, thanks, Tanya. You can find me on my podcast, Higher Self Connection. That's where I'm most active right now. I'm also on Facebook. You can send me a message there. You can reach out to me at stephaniezumwalt.com as well. The Higher Self Connection book is coming out soon. I've been working really hard on that, so stay tuned for that.
Thank you, Steph. And how about you, Steve?
That's awesome. Thank you for having me. You can reach me at trinityhealingreiki.com, Trinity Healing on Facebook. You can send me an email at trinityhealingreiki@gmail. Feel free to reach out for any healing needs, coaching, whatever you need. I really enjoyed the discussion, though. This was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I appreciate each and every one of you. And, we're going to post this. This will be up on YouTube for everybody who wasn't able to jump into the chat. So if there are further questions, after the show, then please, post them in the comments. And I will do my best to, reach out to Steph, Steve, and Ryan if there's.
Yeah, thank you to Ryan. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.
You deserve to navigate your life as an empath in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT Tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.thesoulcafe.org.